republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
A quorum is present.
Any persons wishing to address the City Council on any item on the agenda may do so at this time. And I'll have to tell you that our microphones are not operational in the chamber, but they are operational for recording. And C, DR3 has been... CSA 3 has been pulled. I just don't see it, though.
Page 5.
Okay, yes.
Oh, yeah.
CSA 3 has been pulled. Go ahead, Mr. Brown. Welcome.
Hi. It's my pleasure to come out of so-called retirement because I think it's a worthy reason that brings me here. I'm speaking, of course, on agenda item number 7, but it's not so much that there really should be much of a discussion about a funding for ammunition for the police. I think we need to draw attention to an incident of last week where the restraint of the police practically is unheralded. The fact that as bad as that situation began, and there was many, as I'm told, I wasn't there, but I'm told as many as 5 different divisions were there. Now imagine the chaos to control and manage 5, when it frequently can be bad to control and manage 1. And yet, somewhere along the line, it was controlled, it was managed, and there was an ending that would surprise any Hollywood screenwriter. It was a wonderful ending. And I think the ending clearly transcends the circumstance of what began. Because I've read many times that the hardest thing for policemen to do is to walk up unexpected on a domestic violence situation. You can't go there with guns drawn. You got to walk in a peaceful manner, and the Lord can face you when you hit it. So the fact that this situation ended so many hours later, peacefully, they were talked down. So whatever was the management arrangement that resulted in that outcome, it needs to be heralded, it needs to be applauded. I suspect I have an idea what were some of the factors that may have brought this restraint, but again, I don't know. But for all who played a part, and specifically if you played it yourself, Mayor, however it came about, it needs to be, well, it needs to bring Milton out of retirement to say, God, job well done, honestly.
Thank you, sir.
Gil Matthew, District 4, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to speak in favor of agenda item 4, 5, and 6. And it's about time this council or Parks and Recreation finally discovered that Ed Vincent's Park is a regional park. And they've been eligible for grants from the county since the park existed. And I'm happy to see finally somebody recognize that there's monies available with Prop BB. Now on payment of the bills, here again, I've been reviewing payment of the bills, and up to now, I don't know what oversight you're doing with the bills. But there's some troubling payments on there, particularly concerning the financial condition of the city. There's some on there, it's not that they are not legal, it's just that the appropriations are inappropriate. For catering, petty cash has never been audited. Some things are just difficult to understand with the condition of the city that you're not having oversight for every penny. And here again, I recommended before, Mr. Fields, that you have, not that you have to go over every payment, but you do something which managed corporations would always do. You extrapolate payments. At random, you select 20 payments, and you want documentation. That's a simple thing. You have the financial officer, and it's a simple thing to put on the computer. But here again, what I'm saying is that we have a financial problem but you're going to have oversight. And also, we need a budget report for the fourth quarter from 12-13, because you don't know what it is. And I would suggest that you delay the implementation of laying off staff, because you don't even know what the actual figures are. And you assuming the worst, and even with the amount that you're projecting from the forum, you have $200,000 annually. That's ridiculous. And then you have another $500,000 you're going to save from the red flag. So just do the figures. Have an assessment, but have an analysis. And don't panic, you know. Put your big paw pants on. It's not the end of the world.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I can't read you guys' mind. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what you know. All I can say is you've done a good job in this city. I stand in support of agenda item 4, 5, and 6, and 7. I want to piggyback on what Mr. Milton Brown said. Awesome. I am so proud of the Inglewood Police Department, the way they conducted themselves. I believe it was last Wednesday. Unbelievable. You know, I was kept away from my house for 4 or 5 hours. Tried to get back home. Sheriff Department stood guard, and they were so courteous. I tell you, I haven't heard anybody complain. So this council has got to be proud of what's going on here in this city. Mayor Butts, I love you. You're doing a fabulous job for this city. You're my dream that's coming true. You're that shining light on the hill that I talked about for the forum. You're it. Keep up the good work, and you know, Inglewood is on its way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Diane Sombrano, and I guess I made a mistake. It isn't evening. It's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm glad you pulled that item that kind of refers to all the money you've not been talking about for the last year. And even on this agenda, you're approving the minutes from July 9th, July 16th, July 23rd, July 30th, August 13th, August 20th, September 17th, September 24th, and October 1st. How ridiculous is that? Positively inappropriate, because every last one of you should have been asking, where are those minutes? And you should have seen that they were available for you to vote on. They determine what happened, or they reflect what supposedly happened, or may have happened, or how would you know you weren't there happened, since July, and this is December. The important agency that impacted all that money of the redevelopment zones from 1970s forward. You know, it was surprising the other day I suggested that maybe we should have, well, gosh, naysayer that I am, known where we were going to spend the money before we actually bulldozed our senior center. But we didn't. Didn't think about it, just went ahead and gave out contracts, bulldozed it. Now we still get those requests for payment for work that may have been supposedly done, but we don't know. And yet here it all is. And it's really sad to me that there are those who consistently come up and praise, because I expect our community to be better than it is. You know, in one of the documents that you're going to be approving, well, I'm not sure exactly how we can do that, because after all, you're not accepting public comments until December 10th, or they close December 10th, yet you're approving it. and it refers to a building as our senior center. Newsflash, that's the Veterans Memorial Building. We don't really have a senior center anymore. You bulldozed it. A lot of empty promises, but it's gone. And I do think it's kind of funny. I didn't hear item 8 being pulled, but that is a light thing, shedding light. Whatever. It is so sad that we don't really want the public, I guess, to know what's going on. As I look at the item 5 for Park and Recreation and a mural. You know, when somebody was thinking about submitting a bid, I said, don't bother. Decision's been made. Guess what? The guy I wrote down and said, will receive, before they were even submitted, won it. Somehow I think something's wrong with that process.
Close public comment. Items 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Dodson.
Dodson.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent calendar items 2 through. Certainly. We did. You said a quorum was present. Consent calendar items 2 through 8.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Aye.
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 Aye. DR1.
Pertaining to a draft fiscal year 2012-13 consolidated annual performance evaluation.
Receive and file. DR2.
Well, Mayor, I want to make comments.
Yes,
Can we have the staff present?
we do. Mr. Sparser, you're going to have to use that microphone right here at the podium. These are out of commission on the dais.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I had reviewed this document, and I have had reached out to Mr. Esparza, and there were some figures that both he and I agree that need to be amended for this report, and I want to make sure that the public was aware of it, and so we can get that corrected. Are you prepared to provide us the current figures at this time?
Actually, I had asked my staff from this to be here to do this because I asked them last night to make sure. Here he is. Thank you very much.
Okay. So Mr. Esparza had shared with you the numbers of concern that I raised?
Yes,
Okay.
and those have been corrected. Of course, this is a draft, Mr.
Yeah, but I only have what's presented to me, and I guess the public identified that here's the figures we have, and I'm on the CAPER report on page 5 and 6 that talks about the housing goals.
Yes.
That there were some inaccuracies. I've been advised by Mr. Esparza, and that I thought I was going to get that corrections before we met today, and I haven't got those corrections. Are you prepared to give me those corrections this time?
Well, what happened is I did double check the number, and it is the 376 number, and we are filing the new report on Thursday to be in next week's agenda for the public hearing and approval process.
So I understand this is a draft, and so and I'll just be specific, on the residential sound insulation, the goals were 500 homes, and the accomplishments according to this report was 440, but then when I looked on page 6, it referenced that the same homes that were insulated was a total of 376, and I thought we was going to get that clarified or corrected.
And we have corrected it. It's just that when we published the agenda, you know, it was done for today's meeting, but we corrected it now, and when we republish the agenda for Thursday.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that there's been a correction.
Yes.
And that we're here just to give comments regarding the draft, and that we'll make the necessary adjustments.
Yes.
Okay.
So on Thursday, when it's published, that new number, because in the chart, that wasn't updated, the narrative is what was updated.
Okay.
Unfortunately. So on the new agenda packet this week, you'll have that corrected information.
Okay. Thank you for that part. So I have, and Mr. Fields, I had 7 areas that we had talked about, and actually I have 7 items that I want to talk specific about with my time allotted. So, and thank you very much, Damon. On page 4 of the caper, there is a acknowledgement under the assessment of goals and objectives that we would ensure a suitable living environment that promotes the safety and well-being of residential neighborhoods. And I had shared with you about a senior housing project where the elevator was out, and yet it was a multi-level structure, and the seniors weren't unable to leave from their apartments from the 3rd and 2nd floor that were disabled. And I want to make sure that we look into some way of identifying that those homes, those individuals that have the Section 8 housing or the senior, that there's emergency accommodations that's provided for them.
I did talk to staff about that, the city attorney's office, and to the housing staff, and what they didn't inform me is that we cannot require or restrict disabled residents to the 1st floor, but what we can do is give them priority. And so there are some seniors, even though they're disabled, who want to be on the 2nd and 3rd floors. They don't want to be on the 1st floor because safety is important to them.
Sure.
So we could not restrict it in that manner.
Okay. The other item I addressed on page 7 of the caper had to do with the portal issue. We've had issues where, particularly with Los Angeles, where people were porting in, and this time in this report we had 500 that ported in, and we'll make sure that the money came with us.
Right.
And so we'll make sure that that is also addressed. I had a comment raised regarding pages 11 and 12 that addressed the issues involving the Homeless Emergency Solutions Grant. I believe that the last sentence on page 11 and the first sentence on page 12 are redundant, so we could simply just put that together and adjust that accordingly. And I think 6 I had. I also raised the issue regarding for the services being rendered, that we look into the possibility on page 17 of the caper. It talks about the after-school programs that we have available and what our goals are, and that we would consider if we can incorporate preschool as part of our programs under the caper. Is that doable?
I talked to staff about that as well, and for this program year, we can't make the change, but staff did agree that we will, in this case, we had 250 as our goal for after school, but we only had an actual amount of 79 who qualified for the subsidy, and we will change that so we only allocate money in the next program year for 79, and then the balance of that money can go to preschool. We have, in fact, funded preschool in the past, but because the budget has been reduced significantly, it wasn't funded in this program year, but we will do it next time.
Only because there was a number of residents that it came, and as well as staff, raised the element of job security and also opportunities for parents to continue working and have a safe place for their children to have a preschool opportunities, and making sure we had funding appropriated. And my last item, Mayor, if you don't mind, that's just 30 seconds.
Would you add a minute?
30 seconds. Under caper, page 19, I had made reference that there was an omission of the acknowledgement of the 4 businesses and the job preservation or retention of being 79, and that you were going to correct that, and it's called travel fever.
Right. I talked to staff about that as well, and they mentioned to me, and it's inconsistent in how we approached it, but travel fever, since that loan is paid off, they didn't include it below, but in fact they did include the flower garden.
Yeah.
So I said, well, let's just, when it comes back, just add the travel fever.
Thank you.
So we'll add it.
Thank you, because it also incorporates the total number of jobs,
Exactly, yeah.
either retained or created.
Exactly. Right.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. DR2.
Staff report advising the residential sound installation program progress in completing the sound installation of 1,000 residential structure units within the 12-month period of March 2013 through March 2014.
Now, could we have a staff report? And Mr. Sparks, we particularly want to focus on, because it is a complex report, where we are year to date, and then an extrapolation of with what we have in the queue, where we would expect to be March 15th of next year,
That's correct.
which would complete a year.
And, let me also say that, for purposes of measuring, we have, 3 different time periods that the department, RSI, is using for measuring the number of units. We have our fiscal year, which starts October 1, goes to September 30th. We have LAWA's calendar year, which is January 1 to December 31st. And then we have your goal year, which is March to March. And so, my conversation in the hallway right now is to make sure that when we get together and we start pulling these numbers from different departments, that there's an explanation as to which measurement and which time frame that we're actually using. Because I think that, it's easy to say, well, we're doing, X number of units, but, it's really important that we also know the time period. Is that from October 1st to September 30th? Because, the goal that we've set from March to March is much different and has a much, more aggressive production level. So that was a conversation that I had with Mr. Pipkins in the hallway just now, and something that, I had hoped that was able to be corrected before. To Mr. Franklin's point, I had asked that, we were able to present those numbers here, even though it will be coming up in a new report next week. At least Mr. Franklin's question about, okay, so what is the correct numbers that we're using in this report? And I apologize that we missed that response. But we will be getting that, and from now going forward, we will make sure that we will indicate the period that we're referencing in measuring our progress.
Okay. And so which period are we using in this report?
Well, in this report, because it uses the fiscal year, it should be October 1 to September 30th.
Okay.
Because that is indicated on the top of those charts, with the indication of FY 2012-13. So that indicates October 1 to September 30th.
Okay, and we did not receive our accelerated funding in our agreement with LAWA until March 16th of this year, and that signaled our goal year. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right.
And that's the reason why on so many of the other reports, and one that you will see in this one, which is actually coming up next, that we're actually measuring it March to March, because that's, we want to keep keep ourselves and keep the public aware of our, activities in order to reach that goal.
All right. Thank you.
Comment, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much, Mr. Sparza, for the meeting we had earlier that addressed this issue. It's great to know that when this council made a decision and the mayor led the charge of moving forward, of trying to do 1,000 homes in a year, that it wasn't necessarily our fiscal year, it was a year.
That's correct.
And the threshold started in March of 2013, and that you now have a grid set up showing that there's tracking the packages that this council has approved for the development, that we are on track, and that in fact the way that we're going, we may even exceed that 1,000. So I want to give my hats off to you and your staff, and stay prudent and fervent and making sure that we are staying on top of that. Thank you.
And thank you very much for those kind words, and I do want to make sure that the acknowledgement goes to my staff, because they are really the persons in the trenches, on the ground, getting this done, and I very much appreciate your words.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Receive and file. Call to order the City of Inglewood successor agency. Madam Clerk.
A quorum is present.
CSA 2.
Approval of the minutes held July 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th, August 13th, 20th, September 17th, 24th, and October 1.
Move approval.
Madam Clerk?
Agency members, Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. CSA 3.
That was pulled.
Oh, that was pulled. CSA 3 was pulled. Adjourn the successor agency. CM 1.
Yes, Mayor and City Council, just wanted to advise the public that City
we
Hall
have-
will be
excuse me.
closed for the holidays from December 20th to January 6th.
Call to order the City of Inglewood as Housing Authority. Madam Clerk?
A quorum is present.
H2.
Approval of the minutes held July 9th, August 20th, 27th, September 17th, 24th, and October 1.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Agency members, Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Chairman Buds.
Aye. A1.
Close the housing.
Oh, close the housing
And we're back
agency.
in City Council.
Back on the record,
Thank
City
you.
Council. A1.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. There was a closed session held as to CS1, closed session confidential conference with labor negotiators under Government Code Section 54957.6 subsection A. Employee organizations were Service Employees International Union, Inglewood Management Employees Organization, Inglewood Executive Organization, Inglewood Police Officers Association, Inglewood Police Management Association, Inglewood Police Civilian Management Association. Negotiator for the city is Artie Fields, city manager, and Jack Hoffman, chief negotiator, human resources and labor relations consultant. Discussions were held, however, no final action was taken. There was a closed session held as to CS2, closed session, confidential attorney-client privilege pending litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection A, Penny Sanders versus City of Inglewood et al. Request a motion to authorize a settlement in that matter.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members, Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye.
There was no, we did not hold a CS3 this afternoon. There was a closed session, CS4, closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege pending litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9A, City of Inglewood et al. Versus Inglewood Unified School District. Discussions were held, however, no final action was taken, and that concludes the reports out of closed session for today. And there are no verbal reports.
Thank you, CC1.
No remarks.
There'll be no verbal reports from the city treasurer. CI1.
Is an initiative by Councilmember Dotson recommending approval to sponsor the 2013 Annual District 1 Toy Drive Celebration. And for the recommendation, it has a resolution, but there is no resolution. We're just asking for to approve the sponsorship.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members, Dotson.
Aye.
Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
I just want to
Mayor
comment.
Buds.
I just want to give.
Aye. Go right ahead.
Want for the public to know that we will be receiving tours at the ICOP Center from the 9th to the 12th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. On the 12th, we'll be there till 6 o'clock. So if you want to donate a tour, and we would like that you do so, please come by the ICOP Center from the 9th through the 12th and donate a tour. We would appreciate it. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure the people we're going to be giving these tours to will appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Dotson. Public comments. Persons who wish to address the council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered on the agenda may do so at this time.
Roy Fisher, First District. I was interested and concerned and was wondering if any of you had any idea with regard to people that were hired who lived in the city of Inglewood at the Madison Square Garden recently that they had published and did a lot of hiring. You know, I asked that question to just wonder how and you know, if you have any information about that, or how they determined that those individuals who were given the opportunity to have those jobs lived in Inglewood, and how many of them. And I have those concerns because I know of individuals who went and applied there, young people, and they didn't have the opportunity, even though I know that there were several people hired from other areas. I just wanted to thank you.
All right.
Mayor and City Council, Gil Matthew, District 4. I would hope that this council would reconsider these 2 o'clock meetings. I mean, as you see, the attendance has been simply not productive. And I think it would help with your relationship with the residents, because it's not sending a very good message. Anyway, for your consideration, because we're going backwards. You know, this all happened before, where the same thing happened with the previous administration, and it was all negative. But that's just for you to reconsider. Now, on the successor agency, again, I'm going to request that we have a special meeting. It need not be televised. I would say it's better not to televise it and have it in Community Room A in the evening. We are, in fact, $1.1 billion in outstanding debt. I mentioned this several months ago. The mayor didn't know it, or he wasn't aware of it. However, it's not unusual for 400 other cities. So don't push the panic button. It's not the end of the world. It's rearranging the tables or the chairs on the Titanic, but it's doable. And Inglewood is going to be okay. But don't panic. I mean, you guys sit like you've seen the appearance of the devil. You're scared. Be businesslike. Must be trailing legislation, because 400 cities not going down the tube. So let's discuss it, but level with the people, you know, that it's going to be okay. I'm optimistic. So what you should do is this. Let's do something for the people, the seniors, concentrate on the seniors and the youth, have programs for the youth, and be positive and optimistic. Inglewood's going to be okay. But we need leadership. All is needed is leadership. And don't come from an adversary role with the state. You can't win. That makes no sense. Negotiate. The key is negotiate. So with that, gentlemen, we're in the holiday season. Delay the implementation of layoffs. Let's do our homework and do a complete analysis of what the money is, where we are. We'll get over it. And we've learned a good lesson that you can't spend yourself into prosperity. That's a lesson learned.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council, residents, staff. My name is Wayne Spence. I'm the chairman of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. I'm here this afternoon on behalf of the South Bay WIB to provide a brief summary of its current activities. As you're aware, the South Bay WIB is comprised of the 9 South Bay cities of Inglewood, Lawndale, Redondo Beach, Hermosa, Manhattan Beach, Carson, Gardena, El Segundo, and Hawthorne for the delivery of employment and training services throughout our one-stop business and career centers. My report summarizes the October 17, 2013 South Bay Workforce Investment Board meeting activities and program accomplishments for the first quarter of 2013-2014. The South Bay Workforce Investment Board recognized 40 training providers at our annual alumni breakfast, which was held on October 31st, 2013 at the Ayers Hotel. The president of California State Living Hills, Dr. Willie Hagan, was a keynote speaker, and Mayor Butts was presented with the Esther Williams Award of Excellence for his continued advocacy of workforce development. Also, there was a posthumous award in honor of John Parsons for his contributions to the South Bay and the dedication to the community. This was presented to his family. The South Bay Workforce Investment Board's 5-year plan has been approved by the state. Under the 5-year local plan, the South Bay WIB will provide leadership to establish sector partnerships in 5 industry sectors. They are projected to drive economic and employment growth in the South Bay region. These are manufacturing, healthcare, construction, and trade, transportation, and utilities. The South Bay WIB will link with local employers, educational, and labor partners to identify skill gaps in each sector in order to begin a training skilled workforce to meet future labor market demand training, and it will be focused on career pathways and living wage type jobs. The South Bay Workforce Investment Board held its grand opening of the Inglewood Teen Center, which is located in the ground floor of the library, on September 19, 2013. Inglewood Teen Center will mimic the Hawthorne Teen Center, provide services for our local youth. The South Bay WIB, Inc. received a $213,750 grant to pilot the Bridge to Manufacturing Careers Program in partnership with Community College Career Advancement Academy, which will prepare 42 at-risk youth, 18 to 21 years of age, for entry-level certification employment in machine tool technology and welding. Year-to-date, 32,110 individuals served by the South Bay WIB One-Stop Business and Career Centers. Today, the Hawthorne and Inglewood Teen Centers have served 829 youth. We have provided rapid response services to one company where 11 people were actually 11 people were impacted by the layoff. Overall, our customer satisfaction report is 87%. This ends my report, and I present the factual pieces to the Sergeant at Arms. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Yes, my name is still Diane Sombrano, and I'm going to strongly remind you that quite some time ago, when the red flex cameras came into existence, there were some of us that were, outrageously called naysayers, and what was it, the other thing you called us? And yet I am so pleased to hear, as of the last meeting, some members of this council has finally decided that maybe us naysayers were right. So my query would be, are you going to assume that title naysayer also? Or do you want the world to forget that some of us said that would not be a good plan in a program, and that it would have just cost us thousands and thousands of dollars, probably not too many lives saved, but it sounds like now you've come around to that, but I'm confident that at least some of you will continue to call us names. So, having said that, I'm also going to remind you, those of you may not know, that remember I referred to the Zuma dog situation with the federal judge and how you should not be unkind to those of us who come and speak here? You might want to ask about your recent DA letter. Ooh. Yeah, you probably should. And you're going to be getting one from calaware.org as well. That one will start up in Sacramento because some of us are done with this. And thank you very much. I know that it was the goal of someone to be out of here 30 minutes after we started. You did take some time to explain to us what those very important documents, how much was it? $14 million worth that was just snapped through, and that's been kind of normal recently. But I'm going to point out for the public who isn't aware, that didn't know that that environmental impact type thing about Century is already past due. You didn't really share a lot with us about it. Camphor trees are rated 1 to 3 in the highest of allergens. That's what you have in there as the favored prospective tree. Did anyone notice that there's a lawsuit now because of autism and pollution? Wow. Some of us naysayers have it figured out, don't we? But maybe you'll kind of want to join our ideas instead of just calling us names.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I did support the camera lights. I still support them. But I don't support the contract that the city had with the people who own the lights, the cameras, rather. I would like to see if it's possible, I'd like to see the city buy the cameras. And if there's any kind of way that the city can operate them, because I really feel that they're cut down on accidents. I know it made me more cautious. It's not the cameras, it's the contract that the city had with the owners of the cameras. Oh yes, I believe in the naysayers, but I don't want this council to believe in the naysayers. You know, listen to them and do what you have to do, because you're the people that I voted for to represent me. And you're doing a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and staff, and residents. I just have a couple of questions. Since these City Council meetings are organized in order that the public who voted you into those seats would be privy to the decisions that you've made supposedly in their stead, I'd like to know if there's anything in the Brown Act that says you can call a meeting anytime you want to without really notifying those who don't have computers or aren't in the loop as far as telephone banks and that sort of thing. I'm wondering if the Brown Act protects the citizens from these kind of things happening, unscheduled meetings that they know nothing about, for those who don't have the wherewithal to find out about them. Fortunately, I found out through a telephone call. Even though I have a computer, I don't look at my computer every day. So a concerned citizen called me to make me aware that this meeting was taking place. And you're doing harm to the citizens. We know that. The ones that are labeled naysayers or whatever title you'd like to put on us, we know what's going on as far as not being privy to what you're doing until it's done. And then it's too late. So if you could just answer me that one question. Does the Brown Act say anything about calling meetings and not really notifying the whole city regarding those meetings so that they can be well informed about what is happening with their city and the decisions that you've been making? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. First of all, let's take that last question first. Mr. Saunders, this is a regularly scheduled meeting, daytime meeting, is that right? So
Yes.
this is one of our regularly scheduled meeting, Ms. Sly. And when you call a special meeting, there are Brown Act requirements where you make notifications by placing notifications in various places throughout the city. And we always comply with that. Ms. Horton, would you like to give her some information on the noticing requirements for meetings?
Sure, thank you. We notify the IT department. It's put on the web. We post it around the city and the library. If there's public hearings, we post them, we publish them in the newspaper. The day meetings are on the first and third Tuesday of the month, and that's regular. And on the second, fourth, and sometimes there's a fifth week, that's in the evening.
Okay. And so this is a regularly scheduled meeting?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Council comments, start with Councilman Morales.
Well, I'd like to start by talking about our police officers and what they went through this last week. And really what a great job they did from the chief on down. I mean, the chief, the captains, the sergeants, the lieutenants, everybody that played a role. I mean, it's amazing really how far we've come as a police department in terms of our image. But the fact of the confidence that not only the council has in them, but the residents. You know, when I first heard about it, it was actually from the mayor who texted pretty much, you probably text all of the council, right? Mm-hmm. On the way there, when he was on the way there, it was inside of 20 minutes of it actually happening. And from there, he texted us pretty much the whole time, letting us know, giving us updates. We were obviously the happiest to hear when the officer was that he was wearing his vest and was just in stable condition in the hospital. I can't imagine what they go through when something so traumatic they're faced with and having to return to work, or just getting themselves you know, to the right place so that they can return to work. So I just want to say we really appreciate it. And Mayor, I appreciate you keeping us informed. You know, a while back, sometimes you feel like you want to go to these sites, but it's very difficult to get in the way of an investigation like that, an ongoing situation as a member. The mayor and actually Councilman Padilla, they're obviously police officers and understand the situation a lot better than we would. So just wanted to point out that you know, in that regard, we're actually very fortunate to have them around. Just want to thank staff for some of the work they did out. We had an issue over in my area in terms of lighting and some stuff in the middle of the street, so I appreciate that, both Public Works and Parks and Rec. And just want to remind everybody that we have a tree lighting ceremony on Thursday, which is always great to be at. It's one of the nice events that we still have as a community, because in the end, there still has to be those type of events which remind us what kind of city we are, how we became strong, and you know, give us hope to move forward, because there's been a lot done up here on the dais, a lot of tough decisions, but Inglewood's looking good. So thank you.
Councilman Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Let me piggyback on what my colleagues have said. Particularly, I reach out to the Inglewood Police Department, and as we've heard one of the residents say at the podium, that the continuity and team effort and coordinating effort by our Inglewood Police Department with all the other agencies that came on board was outstanding. I also want to reach out to the residents of a quarter of a mile that they were denied access to their homes, but they understood. The eve of Thanksgiving, a holiday, and they understand that there were individuals that were willing to put their lives before themselves for the benefit of mankind, to make sure that they were safeguarded. Yeah, we were inconvenienced for 10 hours, but for certain, they were there for our protection, and they stayed to the very end. And as I texted the chief earlier during that incident, I commended them because they prepared for this opportunity, is what I called it. They had a number of training. I've read the watch commander reports that identified they were prepared for hostage situations and hostile or violent situations, and their fervent efforts of training paid off. The results of being able to negotiate with a very unstable individual, and also the residents on that block that had bullets that also had their homes damaged as well, is mind-boggling. to identify that there was still a cohesive team and effort for the ultimate result, and that was tranquility that ultimately transpired. My heart does go out to the family and those that are in that community that are also still dealing with the mayhem that occurred. Mayor, I do ask that you also close the meeting in honor of Harold Edward Hoffman. He was the mayor of Lawndale for over 2 decades, and that I request that he has been instrumental in the South Bay area of reaching out to us, sure that we get a number of the major R monies in the South Bay and appropriate it also for Inglewood as well. I'd be remiss if I also didn't acknowledge the appreciation and satisfaction of the Sheriff's Department, who had a police academy. And at the police academy, we were instrumental and successful of having Lieutenant Medea be the recipient of receiving one of our new officers that came on board that went up through the ranks. He was not a sworn officer. He was a civilian, and he took the agility and tests, all that's required to become they call him a recruit, to now become a police officer. And I'd like to welcome our new police officer, Jerome Crossan, C-R-O-S-S-E-N. And then in addition to that, we actually have a young lady that was at Monroe Middle School that escorted me to Career Day repeatedly, who has now become a recruit to a sworn police officer, and that is Precious Ayers, the daughter of Kathy Ayers Givens. And I just want to commend her as she goes into another police agency as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll go next. I wanted to remind everybody on December 5th, we have our Christmas tree lighting ceremony. I believe it begins at 6 p.m. And it's always well attended, and we invite everyone to come. I too want to compliment the Inglewood Police Department, express my appreciation to the CHP, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, Gardena PD, and Manhattan Beach, among others, that assisted the department in the successful resolution and peaceful resolution of the hostage situation that occurred and resulted in an Inglewood police officer being shot. I found it fascinating. I read an article online last night that was posted by someone named Randall Fleming. I think he's the editor of the Morningside Park Chronicle. And he titles it this: Fifth Avenue Shootout, Missing Inglewood Mayor and Chief Have Nervous Citizens Asking Questions. I found that fascinating, and I wanted to read a little bit more. Throughout the incident, Inglewood's Mayor James C. Butts failed to appear. He alleges to live 2 blocks from where the media were staged. I was actually on scene within 20 minutes, and because I have law enforcement background, I was allowed into the command post area. And I was joined shortly thereafter by Councilman Padilla, and we were there for the remainder of the incident. The only time that I left was to go to the hospital to check on the officers that were injured. I was so grateful to see that the officer was struck in the vest, and he sustained a deep, deep bruise from the discharge of the weapon, but he'll be fine, and so will his partner. Incidents like this, council people are not supposed to be within the perimeter because it's reserved for law enforcement people. And you also aren't supposed to jump on TV in hostage situations because the suspect may have access to a television. Usually they do. And so you don't want to talk about anything that would tip off strategy or discussions you might having in the inner workings of the operation. And I respect that, and so does Councilman Padilla. But I just thought it was so unfortunate that such an irresponsible article was written to destabilize confidence in the community. Chief Ranarata had left the day before to visit his family in Boston. Immediately upon hearing what was occurring here, he took a plane back, and his plane touched down just after the crisis was resolved. So he came back, and he's gone back to rejoin his family. That's dedication. We should be extremely, extremely proud of what happened and how it was resolved out there. It was extremely professional. The outcome was the best that you could hope for, and even the media coverage showcased us as a community that was public safety minded, had things under control, and even the neighborhood looked good as they shot the topography. So you know, for such a tragic situation to have such a great outcome is a testimony to the chief and the department, and I thank again all those agencies that came immediately and assisted us in resolving this. And as far as the reflex camera system, probably those of you that are watching know, but I'll remind you that that's a contract that was entered into probably 5 years ago, and most of the council wasn't here. And so for us to take a fresh look at it, even those that were here, whether they voted for it or not, we have plenty of experience to understand it's not, we don't think it's in the best interest of the city. That's what you do. You make decisions on information that you have before you. So with that, I'm going to go to Councilman Dotson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to go along with what everybody said about the police department. The one thing that I can really identify with, because my son went through the training and he's now a police officer for the last 15 years, it's a testimony to our guys in blue and ladies in blue. They went through the training and they learned how to take care of situations like this, and they proved it this past Wednesday. I'd like to also thank the mayor for keeping us all informed. I was being texted constantly about the mayor and updated on what's going on, where they are in the investigation, how are the things coming along, how the officers doing. I had all the information, and I appreciate you for doing that, because I had no other way of knowing. So I appreciate you for that. The other thing I want to give the Inglewood Today some thanks for covering the forum employment. It was a very good article. I hope that everybody will read it. The pictures, they even have pictures of a couple of people who went through the whole process. They were lucky enough and had time and was interested enough to go through the whole process with those two individuals. We don't know if they were hired or not, but they went through the whole process. And my hat's off to Madison Square Garden, because they had pretty close to 11,000 people out there. They saw all 11,000 people. Nobody went away without being seen. That's unheard of. They stayed there till all those people were interviewed. I hope that in the future we will know who were hired, and I'm hoping that a lot of those people that were hired are Inglewood citizens. But I'm sure that we will know sometime later on in the year who those people were. I also would like to thank Councilman Padilla for also texting me concerning the hostage situation. So we have people in the city who really care about this city, and they show it every day. We sit here and try to make decisions that we believe together will be better for this city and keep this city moving forward. That's all we're here for. That's all I'm here for. I come here to make sure that I do everything I can to keep this city moving forward. And I appreciate you people in the audience coming in and giving your time as well, whether it's positive or negative. So thank you very much, and thanks to the staff for helping me along the way. I appreciate that. And look forward to seeing you guys next council meeting.
Okay, before Councilman Padilla finishes up, one, I want to correct the time on the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. It's starts at 5:30 p.m. as opposed to 6. 6 will probably be lighting the tree. And also, as far as the job outreach program that they conducted at the forum, there were about 11,000 people there. And Mr. Fisher, we do receive updates as far as how many residents are hired. I know they haven't finished their hiring process, but we will give you that information when we get it. So that's very important to all of us. Also, Senator Wright and Assemblyman Bradford are having a holiday gathering from 5 to 7 on Wednesday, December 4th. And if the senator wanted to come forward and say a few words, we'd appreciate that at this time. Senator Wright.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'll be very brief, but literally on the 6th floor, if you just come down 3 floors from where you are, Simmerman Bradford and I are going to be just hosting a community open house, and so we'll have a number of people in. Wanted to raise one other thing, Mr. Mayor, if I could. We discussed a bill that I did, SB 470. Specifically, what it does is it allows for your redeveloped land to be sold in an alternate means on a fair use versus a fair value.
Fair market
and I'll
value.
give you the specifics, but again, there are some conditions vis-a-vis economic development and other things, but it provides some level of flexibility, given that we've eliminated redevelopment at the state, which was not a good idea, but that's a long story. This does a little bit of restoration of what you had in terms of options of how you dispose of the land. And I'll get that to the city attorney, but we discussed it. But the statute was signed by the governor recently, so it does change some of the methods that you have of disposing of land that had been acquired by the redevelopment agency. It was actually brought to my attention by the city of Long Beach, which is also in my Senate district. They, much like Inglewood, had many acres of land that they were unable to dispose of, so this provides some flexibility. We're also going to be looking at, in the next term, some level of restoration of eminent domain outside of strictly public purposes, because many cities have now complained that they're unable to get site control on projects that they were trying to do. Most notably, Sacramento right now is in the midst of trying to build an arena. They don't have site control of the arena and currently lack the ability to use eminent domain to acquire the property. So with that, please come and enjoy us tomorrow on the 6th floor, and I will get the information to your city attorney about SB 470 and how it might aid in some of the things that you might do.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Padilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Just again, I want to commend not only the Inglewood Police Department, but all the other agencies, the mutual aid that was provided to our department during the incident last Wednesday. I also want to commend the community for being supportive and understanding what something of this magnitude entails, and for them to be patient and understanding is really something that's appreciated by all. So again, I want to commend everyone for their patience and the police department for the rapid response. Thank you so much. I want to talk about a couple of events that are coming up. Westchester has a parade coming up this Sunday. It's a Christmas parade at 1 o'clock at Lincoln and Manchester, and it'll go up and down Manchester. If you get a chance to come by and enjoy a Christmas parade, it's, again, this Sunday at 1 o'clock. District 2, we're having a couple of events coming up. We have a toy drive, which is scheduled for Saturday, December 14th. You can drop off gifts over at our ICOP Center at Sentinella and La Brea. The following day, as you know, we're nearing the end of the races at Hollywood Park, and on Sunday, we're having a District 2 at the races, which will start at 12:30. And if you're interested, please get a hold of my assistant, Ramon Quinones, at 412-8601, and he'll be able to provide you information as to the tickets for this event. Again, I want to congratulate Kathy Harris Givens for the graduation of her daughter, Precious, who is now a police officer officially as of last Tuesday with the Culver City Police Department. And so we're proud of her and her accomplishments. And I also want to congratulate our officer here from Inglewood that graduated as well. So it's just good to know that we're getting quality police officers on the department. The officer that graduated was a jailer here at Inglewood, and so he's moving on to the next level. So again, I trust that everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving weekend, and I appreciate your support. I do want to touch on one more item here. When we talk about, someone came up and talked about naysayers in the council giving those people that title. I know for a fact none of us have given that title to anyone. We've always said we appreciate people coming up here
and letting us know what they think and giving us their feedback and input. And that's important that we have this process. So there's none of us up here that look at you as a naysayer. We just look at you as a community member that cares about what's going on here in Inglewood, and we appreciate you being here. With that, thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay. And once again, I want to give our thanks to those brave police officers that were injured on Wednesday, to our police department in general for protecting us, keeping us safe, even in their diminished staffing condition right now. It's important that we find a way to make our salaries more competitive. You know, our officers are on a 10% furlough, and we're going to have to figure that out even as we tighten our belt. We just have to re-engineer our city and make sure that our core services are funded properly. But I just want to let the police department and the chief know we really appreciate you. I want to close the meeting in the name of Harold E. Hoffman, longtime councilman and mayor, and he'll be missed. We're recessing to closed session. The city attorney will report out when we finish.